Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 I'm going to read a cluster of verses this morning from Canto 3, Chapter 20, verses 36 through 41, through 42, 36 and 42. So this is conversations between Maitreya and Vidura, title of the chapter. And the whole chapter is the narration of their meeting, events leading up to their meeting, many, many questions, Maitreya's answers to Vidura, and the initial big topic that Vidura wants to hear from Maitreya is the process of creation. Not the only place in the Bhagavatam where it's presented, but it's really detailed. And in the section that we're reading from, Brahma is already, the universe is built, and now he's filling it up with living entities and different features of the creation. So this little section is the feature of twilight. Now, we don't so much think about twilight, but Bhagavatam has maybe 25 verses about twilight. And twilight means the juncture of the day, when the day turns into night. Dawn and dusk. So it's dusk time, twilight. Twilight. So between the two, the junction of the two. Sandhi. And when he manifests twilight, he does so in the form of a female. And the female has a very attractive form. And the next discussion is the asuras, because there were already created suras and asuras as part of creation, the divine and demoniac nature, as we know from Bhagavad Gita. This asuras went, wow, and they started lusting after this form of twilight, saying these things and those things and the other things. They weren't very discreet, they were pretty blunt, gross. That's asuras. And she was, starting with 36, she was bouncing a ball. And, you know, it's not the only place in the Bhagavatam where the scene of a woman bouncing a ball becomes an object of allure and attraction for somebody, a man. King Puranjana, that story. King Puranjana. King Puranjana, you know that story? No. No? Narada Muni is speaking to King Prachinibari. King Prachinibari's had, the Prachetas were his sons. You know Prachetas? No. Prachetas. They're the ones that were, when entering into the sea, their father requested them, a number of sons, to assist him by creating good offspring, good progeny. And so to do that, they wanted to qualify themselves. Their plan, this is Satya Yuga, so duration of life is long, and so they were planning to do meditation underwater. No cheating when you're underwater. No breathing underwater, you're dead. So they were about to enter into the sea, and Lord Shiva came out of the sea along with his associates and blessed them and said, I want to give you some stotras, some prayers to recite while you're doing your thing under the sea. And they're prayers to Lord Vishnu, who I meditate upon also. It's his prayers. It's what he does when he's sitting there in meditation. He's in his mind reciting these prayers. He gave these prayers to Chetas. They achieved spiritual perfection. They saw Lord Vishnu, etc. So although his sons were highly qualified, King Prachini Bari was, you know, he had good heart, like some of us, but he was distracted, like some of us. And Nard paid him a visit at the palace. And he saw that the king was too much attached to fruitive activities, karma kanda, part of the Vedas. And so Narada chose to, rather than just, you know, he could have done a number of things. What he chose to do was, he narrated a 3-chapter story, an allegorical story about a king whose name was Puranjana. It was actually King Prachini Bari, but just he gave a different name. And Puranjana, everything was great. This and that, the other thing, except didn't have a queen. So he was searching high and low, and where is she? Woo, woo, woo. And then one day, off in the distance in a garden, he saw a very beautiful woman who was bouncing a ball. And so later the allegorical story is disclosed. The king is you, and the woman is your material intelligence. The conditioned soul needs material intelligence in order to figure out how to enjoy the senses, enjoy the material object with the senses. You need material intelligence for that. So he, you know, married his material intelligence. Married the queen. Anyway, so part of the allure, a description within the Bhagavatam here and there, to some other places, is a woman bouncing a ball. And we'll hear it in a moment. Well, this is chapter 20. Later on, there's a description of, in this canto, there's a description of the marriage of Devahuti with Kardama Muni. And when Swayambhuva Manu goes to the forest to find Kardama Muni, he describes his daughter. In fact, his daughter is there, but not present before Kardama Muni yet. But my daughter is of marriageable age, and she's very qualified this way, that way, and would you kindly accept her as your wife? And Kardama Muni already knew, because Lord Vishnu came to him and said, Swayambhuva Manu is going to come and offer his daughter, just say yes. Because she's as qualified as you are. And so when Kardama Muni is responding, he, in addition to saying yes, he says very elegantly and eloquently, but he mentions, we're going to hear his name, that's why I'm spending the time describing this. He mentions Vishvavasu. Vishvavasu is one of two. Paravasu is the other. They're the chiefs of the Gandharvas. We'll hear something about the Gandharvas in these verses. So Vishvavasu fell out of his airplane when he was passing over and saw Devahuti on the rooftop of Swayambhuva Manu's palace bouncing a ball. And he went, now I'm like, whoa, 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 he fell out of his airplane. And in that context it said that Prabhupada's purport, even at that time, bouncing balls, but it was done. However, discreet and chased young ladies and women, like Devahuti, she didn't do out in public. She went to the rooftop of the palace, so not a public place, and she was apparently with her friends and bouncing a ball. And her beauty was so astounding and captivating, Vishwavasu lost it. So, in this description, text 36, the Asuras are commenting about her bouncing the ball and the attractiveness of her body and this and that. And the commentary here says attraction for male-female enjoyment becomes awakened at this twilight hour. You know, it's a time when the demons, the Rakshasas, become invigorated also. So, mode of darkness activity and intense mode of passion activity both become aroused in this twilight hour. So, we chant Gayatri instead. Because the inauspiciousness for one can be auspiciousness for another. Anyway. Text 37, the Asuras, clouded in their understanding, took the evening twilight to be a beautiful woman showing herself in her alluring form, and they seized her. Purport: the Asuras are described here as Mudha Diya. Diya, the word D, D-H-I, indicates intelligence, like buddhi. So Mudha Di is the, you know what that means. Means they are captivated by ignorance, just like the ass. The demons were captivated by the false, glaring beauty of this material form, and thus they embraced her. Text 38. With a laugh full of deep significance, the worshipful Brahma, because this is just a form that he's very powerful. He just thought about something and then voila, there's that something. So part of the creation is this day and night juncture, and the worshipful Brahma then evolved by his own loveliness, which seemed to enjoy itself by itself, the hosts of Gandharvas and Apsaras. Purport: the musicians in the upper planetary systems are called Gandharvas, and the dancing girls are called Apsaras. After being attacked by the demons and evolving a form of a beautiful woman in the twilight, because that was a preceding thing. The demons were attacking Brahma, so he evolved this form of twilight and they went after her instead. Brahma next created Gandharvas and Apsaras. Music, so there's the lower and the upper realms. Music and dancing employed in sense gratification are to be accepted as demoniac. But the same music and dancing, when employed in glorifying the Supreme Lord as kirtan, are transcendental, and they bring about a life completely fit for spiritual enjoyment. There's a portion of the Bhagavatam where Narada Muni describes who he was well, in the first canto is who he was before he was Narada Muni. And then there's another section of who he was before he was the young boy who had become the son of a Sudra. And he, in that previous existence, he was a Gandharva. And he was a lady charmer, Gandharva. So he, Gandharvas can sing very nicely, and so he was singing, using his singing nicely skill during a heavenly function that was for the glorification of the personality of Godhead, and he was singing some other kinds of songs. Let's get together. And the sages who were participating, they understood what was going on, and they said, "Shame on you! This isn't what we do in the heavenly planet. This is the gift that God has given you, that you sing songs like this to charm the girls. This is the behavior of a Sudra. We curse you, you become a Sudra." So he became a Sudra. But then he got the benediction of the Bhaktivedantas and he became a perfected soul. So that's what Prabhupada is writing here in this purport. The heavenly planets, music and dance is meant for one thing. Now, can the residents of the heavenly planets be tainted sometimes? Sure. They're not pure devotees. But the purpose is higher. And you misuse the higher purpose and you become fallen. Text 39. After that, Brahma gave up that shining and beloved form of moonlight. So comes after twilight is moonlight. Vishvavasu and other Gandharvas gladly took possession of it. There's Vishvavasu again. We'll say it again, Vishvavasu and Paravasu, they're Gandharvas. They're the chiefs of the Gandharvas. The glorious Brahma next evolved from his sloth. Sloth means sleep. The ghosts and fiends. But he closed his eyes when he saw them stand naked with their hair scattered. Purport. Ghosts and mischievous hobgoblins are also the creation of Brahma. Semicolon, they are not false. All of them are meant for putting the conditioned soul into various miseries. Like Halloween. They are understood to be the creation of Brahma, under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Text 41. The ghosts and hobgoblins took possession of the body thrown off in the form of yawning by Brahma, because it's twilight and moonlight, it's getting dark, and he yawns, and so it doesn't give the detail, but that yawning it's also a body, and the body was thrown off by Brahma, and the ghosts and hobgoblins took possession of that body. This is also known as sleep, which causes drooling. The hobgoblins and ghosts attack men who are impure, and their attack is spoken of as insanity. Purport. the disease of insanity, or being haunted by ghosts, takes place in an unclean state of existence. Here it is clearly stated that when a man is fast asleep and saliva flows from his mouth and he remains unclean, ghosts take advantage of his unclean state and haunt his body. In other words, those who drool while sleeping, pretty graphic, are considered unclean and they are subject to be haunted by ghosts or to go insane. Text 42, we'll end with this one. Recognizing himself to be full of desire and energy, the worshipful Brahma, the creator of the living entities, evolved from his own invisible form, from his navel, the hosts of sadhyas and pitas. Purport. The sadhyas and pitas are invisible forms of departed souls, and they are also created by Brahma. I'm going to end there because these verses we just discussed are verses that haven't been recorded yet. The other ones before and after have been. Now, departed ancestors. Pitriloka is a place of departed ancestors, but it's not that all ancestors go to that place, because some ancestors may go to the next body, and the next body, and the next body, and they go back to Godhead. Pitriloka is a very special place. I sent something out because I had to do it. I never really understood what Pitriloka is. It's mentioned several places, and what is it? Barbara's truck. Anyway, that's a particular planet, but here at Sadhas and Pitas, they're different. Another place where ancestors may go or become, and there's not a lot of information about them. Just it says they're invisible forms of departed souls. So invisible forms sounds something like, I don't know, but it sounds something like a ghost, or a form that somehow doesn't have the capacity to manifest. Maybe they have the capacity when they want to manifest, it doesn't say. So these things, on the one hand and on the other hand, modern people, they have this fascination for Harry Potter. And with Harry Potter is all these weird things, entities and things. So, thanks to this nice lady that wrote the book, there's this whole wave of now attraction for wikis and this and that, and people worshipping exactly as it says in Bhagavad Gita, worshipping ghosts and spirits. Worship in the mode of ignorance. It's become really popular. Worship in the mode of ignorance. Hey. And some people think it's fiction. Just like they think the heavenly planets are fiction and Krishna Loka is fiction and the only thing is here and now and that's it. Yet within our culture there's certainly knowledge of God and the kingdom of God, and there's knowledge of ghosts and spirits, and people worship them. So Prabhupada is just saying very simply, they're real. Brahma created them. And it's part of this Because the modes of nature are there. The lower modes of nature are part of creation. And then there's some other people that say, oh, why there's lower modes of nature? Why do people suffer and God is good and all those things? But the big picture of creation is everything is there. And details are not necessarily presented, but some details, at least the names of these entities, and what their function is. The function of the Gandharvas, and the function of the Apsaras, and the function of Twilight, and the function of the moonlight, and who's attracted higher. And so in the spiritual realm, in Goloka Vrindavan, there is moonlight. And there's a purpose of the moonlight, and that's Krishna's happiness. And when you forget Krishna's happiness, then something else happiness takes its place. By default, and the modes of nature will determine what that is. And the whole range of the three modes is there in creation. All the way down to the bottom and all the way up to the top. Next. So the Bhagavatam gives us that picture of the creation and how it came to be. Modern education is atheistic. Public school education is atheistic. And so everybody gets trained up in atheism. And then theistic people that get trained up in atheism have to do this gymnastic of how do I understand what Scripture says in comparison to what, my modern atheistic education says. And there's not a whole lot of guidance in making that connection. But there are some devotees who have taken the time and trouble and as I'm speaking, I have this idea. There's one devotee, a teenager, who, in his own way and in their family, he has a younger brother, they've really developed a really clear understanding of Vedic paradigm and the material science paradigm. Largely from the studying of Sadhuputa's work. Deeply studied, but the two boys and their father. And he's an outstandingly brilliant young man, without details. And he's coaching at least one person because one family, the mother said, my son is struggling with what science says and what the Vedas says, how do I help him? So I just said, get in touch with Gopal. See if he'll guide him. So maybe Gopal can, because it's different than if you get an adult saying, if you get a teenager that says it to another younger person, that's cool. And he really knows his stuff. Maybe I can ask him to plan something and then deliver something to young people who would want to hear that. Any discussion? Comments, questions? Yes?
Maharaj, you were talking about asuras and evil-minded people, like mode of ignorance.
Yeah.
So growing up, I have always heard from my parents, we should protect ourselves to become an object of an evil intention.
An object of evil intention. Protect yourself from.
evil intention, somebody, you know,
Yeah,
developing
okay.
evil-mindedness towards you, they can do something in mode of ignorance, some mantras or whatever, and impact another person in a negative way. So I was wondering, is that really true, or what is the protection?
Well, you're a devotee. Mission fulfilled. Supposing somebody's not a devotee, you're vulnerable. No, not just like identity theft. There are people that know how to do that. And they're not necessarily going to get you. They're going to go after somebody that's got a lot more value than you. But then, you know, there are people that go after anybody. So, like that, the advice of your mother and father has its place for people that aren't devotees, and you become a devotee and you get Krishna's protection. Doesn't mean you know, hang your money out on the front door. Because we're servants of Krishna. We do practical, sensible things. Okay. Yeah.
You talked about those ghosts.
Which ones?
The ghosts.
Ghosts. Ghosts.
Come for the night, when you're doing all of those, I don't know, unclean stuff.
Unclean.
Unseen. Okay.
Could you cleanse yourself of that state by
Yeah,
breathing when
yeah.
you
Yeah.
get up?
I mean, some people snore. You know what snoring is, right? Some people snore. And there's this whole thing about snoring and people, you know, this and that, the other thing to stop snoring. I don't know whether it works. It's a market for it, though. But, you know, if you snore, you snore. You know, what are you going to do? Like this other thing, if you're asleep and saliva comes from your mouth, you're asleep. You don't, you know. So, I don't know what you're going to do. Have kirtan playing in the background while you're sleeping. So, because that'll keep those bad guys away. You're your Nishinga pendant.
Yeah, it's dirty though.
Huh?
It's dirty.
It's dirty?
It's
The
full of
thread
hair
is-
in the back.
The thread needs to be replaced.
Okay, fix it. Or, you know, soon. Then you're protected. Okay? And if something comes and tries anyways, because you know they're not bound, we can't go after somebody that has Kuntimala on or something. You call Krishna's name. Boom, they're gone. Boom. Okay? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, do ghosts exist in other planets?
I don't know. I've never been there. But why not, you know? Why not? Anything else? Yeah.
Maharaj, did you say like Vishwavasu got attracted with Devahuti?
Yes, that's what the Bhagavatam says.
So that is like before she got married to
Yes,
Karna.
yeah. And Karnamuni somehow knew, because he mentions. It's in the Bhagavatam. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. You said about the function of a twilight is inauspicious and we do Gayatri to make it auspicious?
No. You know, demons become attracted in demoniac way. It's just like you know, not like that. It's a Sandhi, and so Sandhis aren't inauspicious. But a demoniac mentality person has demoniac mentality, and anything they see is,
Okay.
let me be the enjoyer in a demoniac way. Okay?
Yeah. Follow-up question.
Mm.
So before coming to Krishna consciousness, like in Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, we were practicing the Sandhya Vandanam, which is like
Yeah, I'm
we do pranayama and
Yeah.
and Gayatri.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand what is the actual meaning behind all these things, but I just followed as a part of the procedure to do that.
Fine. Good for you.
So connecting the
Same question. You're asking the same question in a different way. The pranayama is to help them focus the mind, on the Gayatri mantra, taking advantage of the sandhi, to move from something to the next something. That's what you do. Like sanskaras. To move from this to that. That's what a sanskara goes at that sandhi. So you're creating auspiciousness. Or in this case, transcendental auspiciousness. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is Twilight inauspicious or
That's his
auspicious?
question. That's his question.
Yeah.
Same question. You're asking it the third time.
I didn't really understand.
Well, it's not exactly auspicious or inauspicious. It's a junction between this and that.
But what I'm thinking is that Nishingadeva appeared in Twilight, so...
But
like-
yes, is that so? Is it auspicious that Nishingadeva appeared? He died. But for a demon, we hear just heard, no. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah, their lusty desire, or for a Rakshasa, so it's a junction between this and that. That's all. That's what a sandhi is. Twilight is one of them. It's not in and of I'll ask a Jyotisha person, because there's all this question about it. My before I ask, my current understanding is it's neither exactly auspicious or inauspicious. It's significant for transitioning between one thing and the next thing to create auspiciousness at that point in time. That's what devotees do. And demons do something else. Difference between divine and demoniac nature. I'll do a little research. I know a few Jyotisha people and see if they can fill us in for tomorrow morning. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki.
Jai. Romapada Swami Maharaj ki jai.